What's good, YouTube? This video is going to be about stupid assumptions women make about men. Jumping right into this, the first stupid assumption that women make about men is that rude boys or bad boys are somehow or another better protectors or better at fighting or more war ready than nicer guys or good men. This is not true. It's a myth. Women often forget that they themselves are having a psychological and emotional response to the way a man treats them and how they feel about him. They often assume or project that same impression onto other people as if other people are as impressed by and or intimidated by that guy, but that's just simply not the case. While you may be under his spell, a lot of times none of the other people that you encounter actually give a damn about anything that he's talking about or putting off. Too often, women assume that the effect that a man has on them is the same effect that he has on others, and that's just simply not the case. While you have anxiety and butterflies, and he's a little bit abrasive with you, and he has the ability to control or manipulate women, or to just handle them well, it doesn't mean he handles men well. That doesn't mean other men give a damn about none of that stuff. And it doesn't mean he can throw his hands or pop his gun or whatever you think a man should be doing to be tough. A lot of y'all are actually walking around with the softest, weakest guy from his hood who actually reinvented himself to look a little bit tougher when he got around women. Until you see a guy handle other men, you have no idea what kind of toughness he possesses. Too often y'all mistake bravado for masculinity or toughness, and that's just not it. Bravado is a display of masculinity, but it's not masculinity. You respond to bravado as women. A lot of times men expect it. It doesn't do anything to or for us. Stop assuming your boyfriend won't get his ass kicked just because he has an attitude problem, or that somehow or another he's more dangerous than a guy who has manners, or who doesn't come from the streets, or who doesn't make poor decisions. Moving on. With that said, the second assumption that women make, the second dumb assumption women make about men, is that nice guys or good men are nice to everybody and therefore soft, less masculine. Because depending on your understanding of masculinity, to many of you, I might represent the quote unquote or the proverbial good man or nice guy. The identity that you've assigned me may have in some way or another made you assume that I have a lower propensity for violence than the next guy. That somehow or another I'm less likely to meet a violent threat with brute force and ruthless aggression. This is just not the case. It's not true. And it's not just me, it's a lot of other nice guys, well-mannered men. Gentle personalities. We're gentle because it's a choice. But again, as the cliche says, people often take that kindness for weakness. It would be a mistake. And again, if this is true, if you've assumed these things of me or any other nice guy, it's not necessarily your fault. You're programmed to assume that the displays of bravado indicate real toughness and real masculinity. And because I made few displays of bravado, you wouldn't assume violence of me or any other guy like me. As if to be articulate, you have to be soft. As if to be well-mannered or well-intentioned, you have to be weak. As if decent men and or law-abiding citizens don't carry guns, can't fight, have never been in a fight, don't box, have never attacked anyone. Oftentimes, it's the nice guy who's gotten the most practice fighting because he hasn't made a habit out of trying to intimidate people away from fighting. Just like those felons y'all like, I've also been in a lot of fights. Because I respect my boundaries, and most good men respect their boundaries. And if they don't get that same respect from other men, then they're going to be fisticuffs. Sometimes other people make that same assumption, and you have to make an example. Good men aren't weak or are non-violent. That is a myth. Moving on, the third stupid thing that women often assume about men is that nice guys or good men, well-intentioned individuals, for whatever reason, can't hit it right. Like they don't know what to do with their members. As if sexual IQ or the intent to pleasure exists exclusively with fuckboys or jerks or men who are players. In fact, a lot of times the opposite is true. Fuckboys, jerks, players don't really have an incentive to please you because they don't plan to stay around very long. A man who has an intent to love you and a man who wants to impress you, a man who cares about the result of everything he does to you and everything that he says to you, is going to want to make sure that he leaves an impression and that his effect on you, sexually and otherwise, is a positive one. When a man really cares about you, he takes a lot of pride in your pleasure. He'll learn how to make love to you. A lot of the women I talk to, and I've spoken to thousands, I've coached over 4,000 women, have told me that the sex that they get from the guy that they have this crush on, that breadcrumbs them, that ghosts them, that treats them like shit, isn't even good. They just like him so much that they need it from him. It's not that he's so great or he's so considerate in bed. And of course, there are some guys who are really good in bed because they get a lot of practice laying a lot of different women down. But just as often, it's men who suck in bed, treating women like shit. And just as often, men who have morals and values and integrity know what they're doing. This narrative that good men don't know how to hit it and somehow the greatest sex comes from the guys who mistreat women is the narrative perpetuated by women who usually exclusively only date jerks, who've been chasing the wrong man for so long that most of their experiences, the bulk of their sexual experience, comes from jerks. So of course they feel addicted to sex by these types of men because they're having an emotional response during the act. On top of, they don't have a frame of reference for enough good men to make the adequate judgment about whether or not good men know what they're doing or not. They don't date good men. And they run around talking about how the greatest men in bed are always the bad boys. You look at their history, they haven't dated any great men. A man's lack of commitment, a man's emotional unavailability is no indicator of his sexual prowess or IQ. And a man having standards, character, morals, values, and integrity is no indicator that he doesn't know what he's doing. This is a myth, and it's a stupid one. Moving on, the fourth stupid assumption women often make about men is every good man or every nice guy is somehow or another a narcissist in hiding, or he might be hiding something. He needs to be found out. He needs to be exposed. Something is wrong with him. It has to be wrong with him. He's too good to be true. You got to watch these people who always talk about too good to be true. If you listen long enough and hard enough, you realize that their standards are so low that anybody who's just not fucked up is too good to be true. Anybody who treats them well, considers them, appreciates them, gives them honor, reverence, respect is too good to be true. If you look at who they've dated the bottom basement personalities, the bottom basement characters among most of the men that they've ever had a choice of. This narrative that every good man or every nice guy is somehow a closeted narcissist is just bullshit. There are as many obvious narcissists and obviously flawed men who will abuse you as there are men who might be hiding something. A man being considerate is no indicator that he, for whatever reason, is going to abuse you down the line. This assumption just makes you mistrust better men and choose obviously flawed men who will mistreat you from the very beginning. You actually become and program yourself to become attracted to the very things and habits that destroy you and won't keep a relationship together. Each man is an individual. Investigate each man as an individual. Some of you are actually running into the arms of obvious narcissists because you're running from the secreted narcissists. Yes, it could happen. But a guy who's mistreating you could get even worse. That could also happen. Make no assumptions. Get to know each individual and watch for the signs. We talk about all the red flags on this channel all the time. But just don't let yourself become subconsciously tainted and programmed against decent men and good treatment. Anyway, I hope that helps. That's all I got for now. Follow me at KFIC24 on Instagram. I'll get with y'all later.